Okay, I think this is all running pretty well. Just testing, see if there's any issues with the volume. We should be good to go. Right. Um, just wanted to do a little bit of painting tonight. I've actually drawn in a couple of landscape scenes, and basically this one here I was just based off a picture that I took over in Melbourne, so next to the Victoria markets. If you have any questions, or you just want to know what I'm doing, want me to clarify anything, just let me know during the stream. Otherwise, you can ask a question afterwards as well. But we'll sort of get started. I'll talk a bit about the drawing first. So if you see what I've done, I've basically just got in a really quick preliminary sketch. I've changed around a few things. I've added some additional figures. I've swapped the locations of them around, and I've also brought this building a little bit more closer to the middle of the page, because I just wanted to get a larger shape here on the right hand side. Sometimes sometimes when you're drawing from a reference picture, you feel you might want to change things up, and the other thing is when you're actually painting, you might actually change things up and not realize. So it's just a good thing to do. So I'm going to get started and show you how I would approach this from the top. So initially what I'll do with most of these paintings is that I'll start with a quick wash going through the entire painting. So I'll basically just get in all the light colors. So if you think about it in this painting here, if you look at the reference picture, we've got the sky, we've got a bit of the ground here where we've got reflections. It's a kind of wet ground, and some of the areas on the building, especially on the left side of this building here, I'm going to emphasize and get in a lot more light there, because it does look pretty dark, but I want to emphasize that a bit more. And the important thing is just to preserve that light here in the sky. Now the picture is probably overexposed near the back, so it looks quite contrasting already. So, sometimes when you get a reference picture, you'll find that the colors might look a bit flat, or you might need to just go on the computer and change around the contrast a bit so that you can draw in the shapes more easily. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'll show you what I'm using for the brushes. I've got a whole bunch of brushes here, and I got these ones today actually delivered to me by a company called Zen Art Supplies. So they just reached out to me and basically offered to send me some of these brushes, some of their new brushes. So this is, I can't remember what it was called. It's I think it's the black tulip range that they have. So they're a bunch of watercolor brushes. I haven't tried them before. They're synthetic, vegan friendly brushes, and I normally use synthetic brushes anyway, so that's all good. We'll see how they perform. And I've got a few of my regular brushes that I use just to supplement them, just in case I need to use them. So I've got large watercolor mop brush here, and this is a medium one there, and I've also got a number 4 round brush and a number 6 flat brush. So just sort of smaller versions of some of these other brushes, but especially for the sky, it's really important that I have a mop brush for this. So let's go ahead and get started. Now you'll be able to see a little bit of my palette. I don't have another camera to actually get in the side of that palette, but you will be able to see me mix up a bit of the color over here. And the good news is that the palette that I use is really, really simple. I don't use too many colors at all. In fact, most of my paintings, I probably have about 4 or 5 colors that I use, and maybe some neutral tint. If you're wondering what I'm doing with this spray bottle, essentially I'm just wetting the paints down. So I work directly from a palette, and it looks terrible. I almost never clean the thing. But I squeeze the paints out, let them dry here, and when I'm about to paint, I'll just basically wet them down with the brush, with the spray bottle. So yeah, that's what I was essentially doing. And while I can, I'm going to refill this bottle. So we're going to get started now, and I'm picking up, I'll probably go with these couple of brushes here. So my two mop brushes, watercolor mop brushes, and some water on the side here. And I'm thinking, before I even put my brush down on the paper, I'm always thinking exactly what colors I want to put down and what strength, kind of planning it out in your head. It's really important. Even, when you're drawing in the reference picture, it's so important to just make sure you've got a bit of a plan in there. So what I'll do first is I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow, and it's pretty much drop that straight in, almost pure yellow in this area. And through this mix as well, I'm going to mix up a tiny bit of rose. I've got some permanent rose here that I'm going to drop in. This needs to be a really really light wash here, and cutting around this tree. I'm going to get the tree in anyway, to be honest with you, but I just want to make sure all the green and stuff doesn't run together. More yellow. And what I'm going to do as well is just bring that pretty much all the way down, even to where the buildings are, out there. And we'll do a little bit of chopping around bits and pieces here. Bit of yellow into the buildings, okay, like that. All I'm thinking of is just getting some warm colors in here. So nothing really too fancy. As we move down the page, right here, I'm just going to pay a bit more attention. The good thing about these little mop brushes is they have a small tip that allows you to just get closer detail. Now, this bit on top is starting to dry a little bit. So what I'm going to do is pick up some blue color. Let me just think about what I should put in there. Oh, while that's happening, I'm actually going to pick up a bit more of this red. Just drop that in up the top like that. I think I'll just go with some cerulean, see how that looks. Just a bit of cerulean blue, and I've not even bothered to kind of mix it on the palette. I've just picked it straight up from the area where I've squeezed the paint into. And sometimes you can do that when you've got obviously areas, when you've actually pre-wet the paints before you start. Just work its way into a little puddle on the side there. Okay, so really all we're doing is that we're just getting in some colors. Okay, we're going to swap to the smaller mop brush now. Okay, and again, just playing around with these warmer colors onto the buildings. Building here on the right anyway. And I'm going to finish this bit off, pop into a bit of blue cerulean top like that. There. We'll maybe pop in some orange, just a light wash of orange. That kind of varying it a little. And down here for the buildings too, we're just going to get a kind of warmer color at the bottom. This got a sort of opportunity here to chop around these cars like that. There. What have we got here? Another car there. And some buildings in the back. Okay. And pop in some more warm colors for the buildings. It doesn't matter, really. It doesn't matter what color it is, as long as it's warm. And I'd like to change it up as well. maybe put in a bit of burnt sienna down the bottom. You know, even a bit of all this stuff here, which is kind of like a grayish color, which becomes a kind of warmer gray once you add in some yellow and stuff like that in here. And that's all I'm doing. I'm just combining this all down, get some interesting sort of mixes, and might pick up a bit of red, drop in as well. But I'm just doing a little cutting around these figures. Well, some more yellow in this section. Just have a bit of a play around. Remember, all you're doing is you're just adding in a teeny bit of color, just a background color to everything. This area of the sky is still wet, and I like to add in some clouds, some indications of clouds. So I'm gonna just try to put in a little bit of this color here. This is just a bit of purple I have on the palette. Drop that in, just a cloud shape like that, loose sort of shape. If you think it's too much, you can also pick up a smaller round brush and pick up the same paint, and you can use that to sort of put in that. While the paper's still wet, it's really the only time to pop in some of these nice cloud shapes, blend in nicely. Obvious. Might put a bit more that. But you know, I don't want to overdo it because I want to leave some of this sky, this lighter color, warm colors in the sky. So just, you know, be wary of that, just you're not overdoing it. But do what you need to do while the paper is still wet. Find that's a good time. This is the best time to do it. A bit more darkness up in the edge. That. Okay. Taking a little bit of, a bit of purple here as well. Just coming down. Yeah. Okay. And if you think it's not dark enough, you can even pick up a bit of neutral tint and drop it in areas. You always have to kind of anticipate bits and pieces getting what's going to dry lighter. So I've forgotten about this section. I'm going to quickly go ahead and pop in some of this warm color down the bottom. Kind of racing against time. With this first wash anyway, I always find that I'm constantly just trying to get it in. And now if we look at the ground, we've got some interesting sort of effects here. So you've got these lights of the cars which kind of reflect onto the ground. So I'm picking up a bit of yellow, and I'm just going to do this. So we'll see how it goes. But a couple of sort of downward strokes like that, just to get some of that light in. What I'm going to do is actually blend it with a little grey. So see if I can use this brush, see how it performs. Okay. Perhaps some little bit of this bluish color. I'm gonna mix up a bit of this. Drop that in like that. And the thing with the ground is that you do need to make it lighter, darker than the sky. I'm just hope that kind of all blends together nicely, and we get a bit of that kind of reflection on the ground. well. And timing is pretty crucial as well. You've got to get it all in while the yellow is still wet so that it kind of melts together. So thinking that should do the trick, and really just move this whole wash across. I'm going to use again this brush here, just the same, what brush is this? The mop brush. Difficult to concentrate while I'm painting, but get through it. Okay. And this is all I'm doing. I'm just adding in a little bit of color here. What I want to do is also reflect a bit of that light off the sky. So I'll pick up a bit of orange, a bit of warmth, and drop that in here, especially at the back. I've put almost too much paint down the back and I'd forgotten about that. We'll leave some, a little bit of white on those figures. Just get the rest of this in. This. Right. So that's pretty much about it for the first wash. The only other thing you might want to do is pop in a little green, some sap green here for the trees. So this is a really light wash. That's not going to stay there anyway. It's going to make that a lot darker, but just a tiny bit of green for that first wash. Some color in there. Okay. Alrighty. Now, I'm gonna try also to get in a little bit of color for the cars. So for the windscreens, I think I'll actually pick up a bluish color. But this is cobalt blue. See how that looks. All right, just a really light wash on some of the windscreens. To do it for all of them, just some of them. Side that. This one's way. And a little bit of darkness bottom. Just picking up here, neutral tint. Pop a bit in like that. Kind of mix in. Lights. That. There's a couple at the back there too. Some of it you can bring up into the windscreen. Whatever you do anything much really. But just get in a little bit of color. This is all going to dry off and get in the really dark colors later on. And I'll give this a really quick dry and go from there. Mute this microphone. All right. I'm going to start playing around now with these buildings and just add some color onto them. The main thing main thing I want to do is basically just get in these shadows. So preserving some of the light on that of left-hand side of the building here and the right-hand side of the buildings here. So blue, bluish gray paint. That will maybe some red in there. This is more like a purplish. Right. And we'll go through, I'm going to leave bits and pieces that go straight into this side. Right. Okay. Shape. Good thing about this flat brush, you've really be able to get in nice sharp edges, pieces like this. Even swap to like a little round brush, top bit. Really all I'm doing is just getting in a little bit of detail this building. Look at the more neutral tint. But a bit of cutting around here. That's not dark enough, just some more tint. Yes. Of leaving in little suggestions of areas where you're cutting around some of these signs and things like that. For the most part, a lot of this just got pretty much in the dark. I'm adding in a bit of color here, this building. So starting to imply a little bit of the light that's hitting off the side there. Go. Finding areas to skip. Oh. move the left-hand side areas. That. Yeah. Underneath rooftop there. A lot of this stuff at the bottom, use a smaller flat around some of it. But another thing I want to do is also just get in a bit of darkness here. Tree, a bit of this color, just a bit of neutral tint and green. In that. Just loose brush strokes, really. Nothing too crazy. That. Think of it as a big shape. Yeah. Looking good. Might actually darken down that right hand side of the building. I don't feel like it's as dark as it should be, especially near to the bottom area. You kind of darker brush strokes like this. I mean, you don't even have to do it now. You can do it later, but I think this is just going to help add a bit of texture onto the building. And go ahead and just start working a bit on this left side of the building. What I'm implying to be windows and bits and pieces running down the sides. Up. Funny, a lot of the time I don't even know what color I'm using. Just look at it as mainly warm or cool colors. Okay, and I think I'll just get a bit of this color, cooler color, running underneath here. Do some little bits of cutting around that there, around that figure, even underneath here, darkness, sign or something. That. Smaller brush, smaller round brush. That's the area of the road that I'm just drawing out underneath Yeah, it's probably too early for that, but you can still go over it later to indicate what's going on. It's actually a traffic junction, just a pedestrian crossing, I mean. Okay. Great. More bits and pieces in here just to draw out extra details underneath here and there. Great. And I might just start putting on some shadows here on this side of the building. So go and use, where's my flat brush? This color, that in underneath, too dark. Bit, that, okay. Yeah. Right. Bit of darkness. The rooftop. Building. And I'm going to have to swap the smaller flat brush again. Yeah. A brush. This bit of paper is pretty small. It's a A4 sized. Normally I work a little bit bigger, but just makes it easier for the camera. So just putting in really shadows and things like that. Buildings. As we get to the back, we don't have to worry all so much about the whitewash. Kate, buildings out the back. That. Windows here. What else is going on back there, but good. Right. Start putting in a little bit of color for these figures, and I'm actually going to go with a bit of cerulean blue. That's straight into this blue, maybe a bit color here. Look, maybe some yellowish color. The bodies, you don't have to worry about too much. It's torsos, I mean, legs that really ground every. So pick up some neutral tint. Put that in. That. Okay. Ends in torsos. That. Might get, do a little bit of dry brush here. Get a reflection of the figures. Oops. Okay. Red. Okay. And I'm gonna just start working on this little tree. Really, at this point, it's mostly done. The rest of this is just adding in a little bit of extra detail to bring everything together. Really, it's just detailing this tree. A bit here. I'm gonna start just seeing where we can get in extra areas of darkness and things. Just bring out this window. That, yeah. There. What else have we got? Sign underneath. Eye brush. Yeah. Really just putting in all your darks. Bring things together. But you're still keeping it in the, I guess, the same style. Detail. More balanced, I suppose. Window frame. That. Yeah. There we go. This is a door. Put in a door here. Thinking popping in some little perspective lines as well. There. Person's holding something. That. windows. Doors. Okay. Great. What else we need in here? I think I'll just start getting in. Big pole. Quick. Oh, this has to be pretty dark. Start off thinking. Yeah. Go here. I want it to contrast. Building. There's just a bit more color in there. Okay. Little rigger. No. Point. On like that. Okay. I think I'll probably leave it as that. It's not my best, definitely not my best work, but first time I've tried this scene. So yeah, see how we go for the next one. But I think the general idea is there. I just wanted to preserve a lot of that light here on that left-hand side of the building, and then we've got a bit of that light coming off there. We've got some reflections. I think the figures need a little more work, especially maybe some gouache would help to bring them out a little. You know, sometimes also I do finish off the painting with a bit of gouache, a little bit of blue gouache in places, especially because I use a lot of warm colors in my paintings. So tiny bits of blue here and there just make it look a bit more interesting. don't think I've got any pure white wash. Mix a bit up here, but it's pop that onto the shoulders and heads of some of these figures to bring them out a little. But okay. Take the tape off and see what it looks like. Not bad for a first go. Okay. Put that aside. Let's have a look. This other one. Okay. Off the picture. Okay. You're watching, just let me know if you can see. You can see that new reference photo. Definitely coming up for me. All right. So this one's quite a simple scene. We've got a lot of these buildings in the background, which they look complicated. Really, at the end of the day, they're just one big shape combined together and a lot of light down the bottom. So I'm going to start off, do this pretty quickly. I bring in a bit of warmth in the sky. Start off like that. Yellow ochre. Fire scene. This is going to be the same color, even ground. A little bit of pink as well. That. Yellow ochre back in here. And sienna. And sienna right through. That. Really just warm colors. Getting in warm colors, more nothing. Bit of got some kind of reddish clouds there, and you can always go in and pick up a bit of blue, mix that blue in with the red to get purpley color, and other bits of color in there as well. That. Darken it up maybe. Fun. I'm going to let that all melt in and do its thing. Move down the page. Figures which around. Out. Yeah. Yeah. I think I can cut around it. And put it down. Marking it off a bit. Marking that down and be fixed. Okay. And up some yellow ochre into add in color to the ground. I'm actually going to add a little more yellow in here. Well, that burnt sienna maybe. Mix that in. That broad strokes. Near the front, also going to add in a bit of this color, just a cooler color. Needs to be a little bit darker near the front. All right, I'm going to give it a quick dry off. All right, time to pop in these buildings. Okay, and I'm going to work on these buildings in the back here first, just to make sure that they're actually lighter. Really just getting a light mix of, it doesn't matter what color it is. I'm using a kind of grayish color with some ultramarine in here, just a very light mix. Let's try. Okay. That background of the building there. Bit that I've made up here on the side. And just go in that area. You can even use a flat brush. Similar way, just this. Okay. Running around these, yeah. That. That one's done for now. I'm going to start working on this building here. Got to make this quite light. Hey 𝗣𝗙𝗙𝗢𝗓, how are you doing? Good to see you. If you dry out the hairdryer, it spreads a lot. Well, normally I'm really careful when using a hairdryer because I used to just turn it on full blast, and like you said, it just moves some of the droplets around. So I just turn it on lower. Another thing you can do is sometimes you'll just have areas of paint that pull on the paper. When it dries, especially if you're painting flat, because I like to leave my painting on like a slight slant like this. That helps so that the water just moves downwards. If you're painting completely flat, I find that it's more likely to pool in areas. And when you use the hairdryer on those pools, it just starts to move it around a bit. So those are probably my tips. I hope that helps. I'm going to go into the top of this area. Start painting rooftop. Okay. Also going to leave a bit of light on the right hand side there. I can just grab that brush again. It's on that. Yeah. Here. What areas? Joining this, it's just a big shape. Think of it as just a big dark shape in the background. That. Okay, I might just apply a little bit of side here because it's just reading a bit funny. Bit of light on better. Right. And now going red paint. I'm just going to get some purple paint. Top. We just start to get in edge of the building. Going very loose here. All I want to do is apply some light on the side of that whole section down. Do the same here as well. Then get underneath there. Crazy person screaming outside on the street. I don't know if anyone hear that. Okay. I'm just going to continue getting this bit down, bringing this whole area. Fiddling around too much on areas. There's just a little indication of light. Side building, that's it. My brush on here. That. Okay. I'm going to start working on these cars. Light, just a light shade, not a light shade, but a darker shade of color. Leaving a bit of light on top. This car, well, that here too. At the base is where I'll just pop in some neutral tint there, let it bleed in top. Where the wheels are, just join them at the bottom like this. Yeah. There. Side where the shadows come. And out through the back like that. Yeah. More accurate. Yeah. Oops. Here, just get that little shadow underneath the car. Oops. Figure as well needs to be pretty dark. Hard now to see what I've done. Figure. Just we can in. Okay. Legs. Oops. That'll be more like that. I think I've mucked this one up a bit. I think what I can do. Be able to turn larger one. Oh. Camera. Oop. Darkness on these ones too. And the legs in at the same time. Figure here at the back. Getting in the kind of contours of the road now. Also maybe some little directional line running through painting. That. Nothing too crazy. Things here. Basically the rest of it's just popping on some darker colors. Got these windows. Drop in that. And, much just in. Not too much fuss. And here's two little windows. Pop in some birds. Figure in the foreground didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to turn out. Just looks too dark. Anything I can do here is to play around with some wash. Okay. I'm going to finish it off here.